Hello, folks, and welcome to an early bird episode of Altacast number 14 because it's the first thing Joel and I are doing this morning. It's a chilly, overcast Friday in Sydney, Australia. So yeah, welcome. And today we're talking about a very special topic, and that's how I think I've introed every topic. Today we're talking about hunger and cooking and its near future. We last Altacast we talked about archery and where that was going, and then we did some stuff on archery. And so we figured we'd talk about some other system changes that we're considering quite strongly at the office, or at the team since we're not at the office. And yeah, so that's what today's topic is. Are you eating mandarins? Is that what you're doing?
Sure am. Just I'm feeling it right now. It's beauty. Ooh.
So when are we gonna get to peel oranges in the Township Tale, Joel?
So dude.
Well, hang on, we gotta update on what everyone's
Oh
segment.
yeah.
Segment number one. What's everyone on the team doing today? So are you getting a list of people that we have?
I was trying to find where Discord was, and I clicked Discord, and the Epic Store opened. I'm like, that's not Discord. So I clicked Discord again. And I'm like, no, that's Boramy's voice chat. Where's Discord? we're voice chatting in Discord.
Yeah.
I just had it full screen. Yeah, let me get a list of humans in our company. All right. The team has been working on the website a bit.
And that's team up with an A, just putting it out there.
Also doing some stuff, talking to some investors or something. I don't know. He mentioned emails at some stage. Other than that, I don't know. Next is Boramy. What are you working on?
So I'm continuing working on the forest things, as always. Still on the content side of things. Experimenting with some slightly larger scale things that you do in the forest. And I've recently prototyped some stuff with to do with the game that's kind of to do with forest and kind of not in other ways. But that's pretty top secret stuff because I'm super hyped about it. It's my first foray into programming that I've done for the game. At least on a slightly more elevated level than I normally do. Because before, normally I just put in triggers where I need stuff, but now writing unique scripts and stuff like that, which is cool.
You made a feature.
I made a feature, and it's a really good one in my opinion. But you'll see once it comes out. I'll let everybody know what I did, so that A, I get all the praise, and B, if it's completely broken, at least you're not going to think less of our actual programmers. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm going at, and I'm probably gonna be catching up with Serena soon on some of the creature stuff that we talked about in the forest Altacast, because they're gonna start getting looked at a bit more seriously. Yeah.
Next up, me. So I've been working on caching in the forest. What that basically means is, if you think of like a Minecraft or a Terraria world, when you create the world, if they update it to make it so that worlds no longer spawn with trees, your world still has trees because it was generated a while ago, and that's because everything is saved. In Township Tale, currently only dynamic stuff is saved. So if we were to change the world, all the dynamic stuff would load in where it's saved, but the static world always is the latest version. And that's why we usually require world resets for particular things. And for the most part, this isn't a huge problem, but for the forest, it's quite a significant challenge, because only a slight tweak, like we could make a slight tweak to the forest generation, and it could result in quite a different forest, and therefore everything is unaligned, all the dynamic and static stuff. So I'm implementing caching, which will basically let us store a copy of everything to do with the forest in a file on the server, and that way, even when we make updates to the forest, you're not going to be having bugs or issues with your forest. And then ideally, at any moment, a server owner could regenerate the forest, and they would then regenerate a forest using all the latest settings and features and stuff. So that's what I'm working on right now. Timo's just finished with archery. So
Yep. He's finished up with the archery stuff, and he's like as we mentioned before, he's starting to help us out with more forest-related things. There's some bugs, I guess, that we're getting him to address in our branch at first. But then he might end up having a look at some of the maybe some of the changes we're going to talk about today with hunger and food and things like that.
Yep.
So, and maybe if it depending on the result and how well balanced this system change is going to be as we're working on it, maybe it'll come into the game a bit beforehand. We'll see.
We will see.
Yeah, it's like once he gets started, we'll get a better idea of that, which should happen hopefully soon, because I'd really like the bug he's working on to get fixed.
Yep.
Yep.
Victor, he's been just optimizations. It's like an endless task. I haven't caught up with Victor or Serena recently to work out. Serena's also doing optimizations to work out exactly where they're at with things. But as far as I'm aware, Serena's been fixing up various models. Maybe Boramy knows a bit more about this. But I think Victor's been working on some lighting optimizations or something. It's a bit hard to tell. But yeah, so they're kind of still in their own world. And it's to us it's been a long-term investment of research. So we're not kind of going, okay, these optimizations should be coming out next week. It's nothing like that. It's still thoroughly research-based. Serena's a little more practical. She's sort of setting up assets for these optimizations in the future. But
it's almost a bit like Victor and Serena are in like we have a different division of the game at the moment, where there's that kind of like passive research aspect that they're working on, and then there's like kind of like the core, or I guess like the not necessarily core, but like the updates and the core and like the big feature team, which is me, Joel, and Timo at the moment. And then we have the cosmetics department with Serena, Sebastian, and Tiana. And Serena's kind of letting Sebastian and Tiana handle it because they're doing a good job. So yeah, that's kind of like the company structure at the moment. So like I guess the stuff that you can expect to see lots of changes and lots of interesting things for us to talk about is going to be with the game team. But with the others, is kind of going to be us saying the same thing every Altacast.
And then we have the sidetrack team, which is Eric, just Soul, that is. Doing his doing his thing on the side, completely unrelated to literally anything else we're doing.
I mean, so it ties a bit into what we do, in the way that we kind of think about content things, and some of the features overlap. But
when that merges in, it's going to be like Boramy's going to have to work on it with him once we get to the art stage of that. But once that comes in, that's going to be a really nice kind of thing. Because as Boramy said, like Timo and Boramy are kind of working on the game core aspect. We're all in the main world scene, whereas Soul's been working in his own test scene, so we can't really experience that.
like
as
a
much.
yeah.
So I'll be. I still haven't tried it out, so I'll be super keen when I get to try it.
I've been playing the trials with Sol, and I've got to play one of his latest ones later, which is exciting. It's one of the larger scale ones. We failed a lot. He and I trying to go through this, through some of them because they're not super easy with the expected gear for that trial. But he's about wrapping that up, so it's getting soon to the point where I kind of have to go in and work on the art a little bit. There's some aspects that we know that the way they're done is not final because again they are preset things that he's handmade. And whilst we'd like to go for a procedural thing, then no one can really work on that procedural system at the moment. So we're getting that kind of snippet of what we want these trials to look like from Sol's designs, and then that'll give us a good foundation to try and create a system for it. And yeah, like in a sense, kind of Sol's working on some slightly some things that are part of the bigger picture, but like smaller components of it. Like we have the idea of adventuring and dungeons and things like that, but we want little bits of like experimental pieces being worked on so we can see what that's like.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think in general between the development of what we're doing and what Sol is doing, we're kind of shifting more towards like the mid game stage of our vision of a Township Tale, where we're starting to create more challenging things. We're thinking about how some of the mechanics you're currently aware of can advance, the kind of stats that you've got to be concerned about as a player, and those sort of things, which like all of the things you've experienced so far, how do they extrapolate into and grow into this crazy thing that is the RPG of a Township Tale?
The more classic RPG goals. Like right now in the game, we have the classic RPG goals of getting XP and skills and the best equipment you can, but we don't have like here's a boss to kill, or here's a dungeon to go clear. There's no definitive challenges that you can say I am strong enough to have defeated this challenge or whatever. Whereas I guess this will be the first situation where that's actually a thing.
Yep.
Cool. And then finally we have Sebastian and Tiana, who are working away on some sweet cosmetics. I say that, but I actually haven't seen.
I've seen them.
Actually haven't seen the latest.
Yeah. There's an outfit that Tiana's making that looks very cool. I think it's got a nice place in the world to some degree, which is going to bring about more questions about a certain type of item that people might want to use in the future, which we've answered a lot in Q&As. I'm waiting for Joel to figure out what I'm talking about once he gets to it.
Oh, a particular item?
Yeah. Like if you see where they reference the name of that outfit, it'll make sense. Yeah, so that's what Sebastian and Tiana are doing. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. Let's keep this moving.
Yeah.
Let's not make this an hour Altacast. Okay. What's the next segment?
So yeah, that's everyone, right? We covered.
That's everyone.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So next segment, let's talk about hunger, food, the future of cooking, that sort of thing. I'm not gonna call this the future of cooking because I called the last one the future of archery, and I don't want to recycle that. But yeah, this is kind of us outlining some current issues that we have with hunger, and we've read some things on the feedback form about it. And also, as a general thing, what's been the behavior of people with food. So
I feel like this could be controversial. So
yeah, I think
controversy creates views on the internet, though. That's how So we're changing it so that you have to eat food every 20 seconds or you die.
Yeah, you just have to permanently be gnawing on something. Yeah.
And Altacast.
No, we're not doing that. what we are considering to do though is to so currently you have lots of different foods. You've got little bits of pumpkin, blueberries, various fruits, eggplants. Then there's stews. There's the roast spriggle drumsticks, the spriggle drumstick chunks, and at the end of the day, you can shove as many of them in your mouth, and then you'll just fill up your bar to full hunger, or to so that you don't need to eat anymore.
Yeah.
The issue with that is, you could have whether you have 1,000 pumpkins or you have five like spriggle drumstick legs, you end up with the same result, and there's no real you just basically choose based on what you have at the moment that has the most.
And you're never in a crux to quickly refill your hunger. Like, you're never in a situation where you're like, I better eat this food and have it put me back on full hunger. Otherwise, I'm like, you don't need to eat in combat. And if you're in combat and you then go just below the combat health hunger line or whatever, eating a blueberry will be just as good as eating. If anything, eating a blueberry might be a bit better in that context because it'll be consumed faster. But the point is, having different quality foods doesn't really matter when the vast majority of the time you're eating is when you're traveling or when you're standing around doing nothing. So there's no difference to you eating 100 blueberries to eating 5 drumsticks. Like they both take time that you have an abundance of. There's no restrictions in the system. I think it's a big problem.
Yeah. So something firstly on the way the current another issue I want to bring up with the current hunger system is currently you're always eating once you hit that mid threshold, and you almost never go below that. So that's kind of like the time at which you think you need to eat, and it happens a bit too quickly still, in our opinion, despite various changes we've made. So one of the changes you'll probably see soon is that threshold is going to get to a lower point, so the time at which before your movement speed gets impeded, it's going to take longer for that to happen from when you're full hunger.
Oh yeah.
So
that's not controversial.
Yeah, that's a boost. That's a buff. So if this is the bar currently about this midpoint is when you have to eat, but now we're kind of moving it closer to this end, so that once you feel that if you reach that point and you don't have food, then it'll feel like things are gonna get worse for you a bit faster, because this as you lose that hunger, you'll start to take damage and be even slower.
But it means if you fill up on food, you've got a lot more time under your belt before you start, and you won't need to eat as often. You'll need to eat the same quantity of food because you'll want to refill up to max, but you don't have to do it often.
Yep. And so so that's going to be the first change. But then the other changes, we're going to have a bit of a concept of your fullness. So it's a bit confusing because we call it the hunger bar, but you're not hungry. When you're full hunger, you're not hungry.
It's the starvation. No, wait. Crap.
It's
it's
like your energy. It's like your energy levels to some degree, like your.
Except you might have stamina one day. So
yeah, it's like your nutrition system. I don't know. But okay, so basically, it's like the bar of you needing to eat, and it's very much the need for you to eat. But then there's the other. I'm jumping myself up all over the place.
No, I got it. It's like a nutrition bar, where eating food gives you nutrition, and you need to have at least currently 50% nutrition, in the future around 25% nutrition, to operate efficiently. The problem is, if you just eat bucket loads of pasta, you won't be getting all the nutrition you need to survive the day. But you will then be like, damn, I better eat something nutritious, but you can't because you're flipping full. You ate too much pasta. You're going to throw up if you eat what's something nutritious? an apple.
Yeah.
I don't know how food works. Anyway.
I think nutritional system is what the feedback forum post I read on it says.
So if we take that and apply it to the game, how would that work? Like, how would we implement that, Warren?
Well, basically you're gonna have a set amount of things you can eat. It's almost gonna be like a separate bar, but we don't want it to just kind of crowd it by having another one, like a third bar that looks exactly the same. It might be something that looks like it's accompanying the hunger bar a bit. But basically, that will be your fullness concept that we're talking about, where if you eat lots of low quality food, then you're not gonna fill up your yellow bar, which is, I guess, your nutrition bar now. And your nutrition bar is what's gonna stop you from having any adverse effects. But obviously, if you fill up your fullness bar, then you can't eat anymore, and that means that filling up on stuff might not mean that you get all the way up to the top of that nutrition. So
to play it out, if I eat some crappy food, let's say it's five food until you get full. If I eat 5 crappy raw something, I don't know, and then I'm still on 30% satisfaction nutrition, there's no way for me to fill it up more until that fullness clucks down over time.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Brutal.
Yeah. So you're really gonna have to pick your foods a bit better, and that means you're gonna have higher value out of getting getting rare foods. You know, one of the things as we're working on the forest and we're introducing new content in some ways, we're trying to think of what's the value of this new thing that we've added, because this, you know, we're adding content to this thing that's not really a problem for anyone, because the first time we had a solution to the hunger problem, like when we added like berries or apples, then, you know, your problem was solved. So this is kind of going to be the incentives for people to become cooks, for people to seek out better food sources so that they can overcome this problem. And it might mean that you struggle to always keep a full nutrition bar, but you might always be in the right bracket, but you might struggle to stay afloat. And so obviously we're gonna balance that so that it's not a complete like negative feedback loop of you being unable to, you know, because you can't walk fast enough because you're too hungry, you can't get to food in time, and so you've got to eat lots of crap food and then, you know, slowly degenerating. Like, there's going to be a balance there, but I think it'll create a bit more of a desperate situation, which I think is an interesting experience when it comes to the game.
It'll also make you cooks out there more valued in your town, I think, because it's probably not going to be it's probably going to require a bit of gameplay shift for people who act purely as scavengers, people who just pick mushrooms when they get hungry. But you might find that you start cooking things in the mines, for instance, because if you are a scavenger, the simplest thing you can do is just keep there's plenty of coal in the mine. Presumably you've got some coal or sticks or wood or something. Just put grass is everywhere in the caves. Put some dried grass on the floor, throw some coal on there, light a fire, cook your mushrooms so that you have better nutritious value rather than just relying on raw things. And frankly, it's kind of a win situation anyway, because cooked mushrooms fill up your hunger bar more than raw ones do. So by encouraging you to sort of try and get the best food, the result is actually that you're doing that, you're actually going to be getting more out of your mushrooms.
Yeah, you're gonna be eating less food but filling up your hunger more, because you'll be in that behavior of not trying to seek out lots of mushrooms. You'll try and get the most out of the ones that you found already.
Yeah.
Which should hopefully make, it's kind of like instead of you having to scour the darkness for another mushroom, you can plunk down and cook to overcome that. So I guess a little less like, I guess the random chance of you encountering a mushroom when you need it.
The reality is you can probably cook a mushroom. Like if you find 2 or 3 mushrooms, you can probably cook them faster than you can find another 2 or 3 mushrooms in the caves. Like cooking doesn't take that long.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a habit that I think not many people have gotten into, because the way a lot of us operate in game is we kind of do bulk cooking, not on the go cooking, which is an interesting dynamic. This is just what we expect. It's not like you need to do this. We're just expecting that this to be one of the sort of outcomes that occurs.
Yeah.
But the other thing is people who cook stews are going to be suddenly so much more valuable, because not only do they fill up all of this hunger, but they might only consume one of these 5 hunger slots, or I don't know exactly. But the point is, you'll be in this situation where if you cook a stew, if you have a stew, you're going to have so much more satisfaction potential than not having a stew.
And there are some changes that we plan to do with stews, just because I know it's going to be a point of question about people, and it's got to do with things like letting people stack some stuff a bit better. I know the barrel bag's a bit less efficient than carrying just a ton of gourds in a regular backpack, so you might see some changes to that soon. And yeah, we want to promote the cooking, like the cooks, like the people who like to cook in the game. Another thing that I'm going to try and do probably at some point this weekend, and I want to add some sounds for the grilling, for the food grilling, because I feel like that's been missing a fair bit. So you can hear it sizzle, and then you can hear it when it starts to burn as well, so you'll get some clearer indicators.
Oh, I love me the sound of some burning food.
I know, like, I'm thinking back of when we had like barbecues, and you can just hear like the oils just dripping into the flames, and
oh, yum, oily food.
Yeah. So you have hopefully look forward to the start of some of those changes. And yeah, we're still considering, real quick before we finish up this segment, different aspects of cooking, like grilling and baking. Those are still on the table. We haven't forgotten about that. But we want to make sure the food system works and is in place before we start to expand too much on that, because we want to see maybe once we implement this system, we see this new need, or this new demand essentially from the player experience, and then we can make sure that some of the new solutions to cooking can solve that.
The cool thing about hunger limitations is, if you think of stews, let's just say in general, stews give you this type of buff, let's say strength buffs, then you can only have, if you only can consume 5 things at a time, or say stews actually consume 2 slots, but they're so good that it's worth those 2 slots, then you can't have 3 buffs active at any one time, because you have one stew and then you have a second stew, and like you can't have a third stew. Whereas and that's going to be really interesting, because if we add in something like baking could give this other type of buff. And so now you're in a situation where you're going, okay, well, I have limited sort of fullness slots. Am I going to just eat normal food? Am I going to spend them basically to get this buff, or spend them to get that buff? There's a lot more decisions there. And if we didn't have the fullness concept, then there's nothing stopping you from just making everything and eating everything and getting every buff in the game all at once.
Yep.
Which fundamentally makes things very OP, basically. So these sorts of things are really setting up for more cooking in the future. So sorry if you were here hoping that we were announcing that we were releasing pizza making tomorrow. But we need pineapple before we can do that anyway. So,
Yep.
but yeah.
All right. So, yep, that's it for this segment. Next up, we're going to do the Q&A. If you've got more questions about, or I guess if you've got some questions about the cooking system, the hunger system that we're talking about, feel free to ask. Chances are you'll see like the first, well, you'll see like some of the basic balances that I've talked about, primarily with the hunger bars thing. That'll probably happen next update. But when it comes to like the fullness and all that stuff, we'll see when we can get that in. But yep, and we'll see you in just a bit. And welcome back to the Q&A number 14. Thanks a lot for all your questions. We had a brief look at them. They're looking pretty swell.
Sorry for the long wait, everybody.
I know. I'm gonna put like a 5-minute black, or we should have like ad slots maybe that we can like put in for people's like servers or something like that.
$10,000. Oh wait, just server ads. Yeah, no, we can't charge $10,000. I thought you want like a Coca-Cola ad in there.
Oh no, I mean that'd be cool. But no, I feel like Township ad space would be kind of a fun thing. I don't know. Probably not gonna happen. We'll see. All right. Do you want to start us off with some questions, Joel?
Question number 1. Will we ever be able to stab our sword into the ground and it'll stay there like shovels do?
Answer is yes. When we worked on the shovel heads that you could craft, I asked Victor about it because he kind of worked on it, and watched the shovel code. I could kind of port that over to swords and stuff like that. It do a lot of unnecessary things that were probably not worth it. So eventually we'll kind of look into creating a simpler version of it that can work for swords and axes and things like that.
Like pulling the shovel out of the ground isn't that easy because it's designed to have that tilt. Whereas obviously if you put a sword in the ground, you're gonna want to just pull it straight back up, not.
I mean, like, you could try and like stab it like that and then kind of flick it up, but supporting all the different methods is kind of the case.
But we absolutely, for a long time, we've wanted this.
Yeah.
Especially like, and not just the floor and not just swords, stuff like being able to leave your axe in a stump is such an awesome idea. So yeah, for sure, we do want to support that stuff. Will there ever be a strength stat that decreases weapon bounce when you swing it?
So the weapon bounce is kind of a result of the way objects are held and the way physics responds to things. So it's not really something that we plan to really control with gameplay. But what we kind of want to do is at some point is, I guess, have another pass through a bit of the combat and the swinging system of the game to make it a little bit more responsive, a bit less floppy in some ways, and kind of letting you, like, something I really want to be able to do is just kind of really give something a slash through things. The reason we have collision on stuff is because we don't really want you to just kind of have this ethereal sword feel where you can kind of just go through things. We still want the collision, but I almost imagine like I want to make that contact and then I want to kind of drag the sword through an enemy or something like that.
Yeah. We also have experimented in the past with weight, so I mean it's something that we kind of want. We just need to find a way to do it well.
Yeah.
And maybe that would kind of accommodate a bit for what you're after, because maybe there could be strength potions which effectively reduce the weight of what you're holding, or like maybe the way weight acts depends on your strength. So as you get stronger, the effects of a heavy object are less noticeable, and that might result in less follow through and a bit more control over weapons.
Yeah. but a key part of it, I guess, is that the reason why we kind of bounced on the weight system so much is because we don't want it to just be this really kind of draggy, floaty thing that happens when you're swinging. We're trying to find a nice medium when we think about it.
This was really tough. Like when we first started, we played lots of different VR games, and they literally ranged from games where like you'd swing your weapon and in real life you'd do this, and in the game it would go "Ooh," and it would just feel so bizarre. But those were the games that had the best weight in them.
Well, I mean, like the best virtual look for the weight is point out.
Because a hammer would take you ages to swing, whereas a dagger you'd be like, but it still felt awful.
Because from a really gameplay experience perspective, those kind of games try and incentivize you to really follow through with the slow motion to kind of like move through, but it's counterintuitive to how you normally deal with a heavy object in real life, where you're just using all your strength and all of your force and torque. So it's a really difficult thing to do in VR, I think.
And on the flip side, as Boramy said, there were plenty of games where nothing had collisions, and you just like, whatever, do this as long as you're like, it's like as long as your sword is going through that ghost, then you're dealing damage to it. And again, we didn't want that, and we also didn't want the ability for you to just turn your hand 180 back and forth and have the sword like
for you to remote the whole thing.
A helicopter. So, and people will know at some stage we had some weapons misconfigured to be an old system, and you pretty much could make a helicopter out of it. But you'll notice for the most part our weapons you can't do that too easily with. So
I mean, it's not gonna be that clean, but lots of different things about combat.
What type of passive monsters or animals are planned or being thought about? At the moment, everything is hostile. Maybe carpentry could make fencing to keep them together, hens for eggs, bees for honey, to name a couple. I don't think hens and bees are ever a couple. Anyway, sorry, bad joke. We talked a little bit about some more neutral creatures a couple Altacasts back.
Yeah, Creatures of the Forest Altacast, I think, number 6 or 7, I think.
But they're not passive, they're neutral. They're kind of like, they don't want to deal with you. In terms of actual like passive or domestic animals, nothing is in the works yet. It might make more sense once we work on farming or whatever. Or especially once we actually have house building, we'll have the concept of like plots and stuff, and maybe farm animal would make more sense then. But nothing is in the works now.
I mean, but that being said, like there are I think we talked about the babu in the creature one, but that's an enemy that's not an enemy, but a creature that's been worked on in the forest. And that creature doesn't attack you outright. It'll only attack you if provoked. And so you might see some creatures like that, or some creatures that flee when you attack them. And so so it's not all going to be things that will attack you on sight coming from that.
Yeah.
And like species and firebugs are the kind of critters as well that don't attack you and are completely, I guess, passive in the same sense. You might see some more of those maybe.
Will there be a way to get item shop currency? I assume they mean like cosmetic currency through in-game means. This is something we like. Obviously, if you look at games like Fortnite, which copied our store system, they've implemented stuff like Battle Pass or whatever. Like lots of games have sort of ways that you can acquire a bit of credit over time, and it's not something that we're necessarily against or for. Unfortunately, it's something that would require a lot of development, and at this stage, because we're so early in development still, the idea of spending a lot of time to try and incorporate some sort of like progression scheme or quests or achievements that are more meta to get currency
I mean,
is a lot of work.
There's
But also, I mean, I don't know how to put this, but like as a small company, we really rely on sales. Like we're not in a position where like sales are just 100% profit. Like we actually need sales, and so in these early stages, it's also important for us not to do things that might potentially jeopardize or devalue our store. Because say we put this out and it's great, people love it, but it cut our sales by 20%, it would actually have a very negative impact on our team. Like we wouldn't be able to have the team the size we have right now if we were making 20% less money. So so there's decisions like that, and obviously as we grow, as we reach the point where we can afford to take some more risky moves like that, maybe we'll see things like a weekly meta achievement that will give you a bit of credit.
There's an aspect to, like, usually for like MMOs and things like that, the gameplay structure is very much orchestrated in the sense that that you're doing like these like very defined quests and these raids that are like very obvious markers of progression, and that's your game experience. And it's usually that's where they might tie in a bit of currency gain, like from those things. But because our game is so freeform, and people can kind of repeat things as much as they want in every possible way, there's no definite kind of source or way for us to kind of like be, hey, if we give you a bit of talums here, we know that you're only gonna get this amount of talums a month, or at a certain rate. There's like, for all we know, you could find a way to exploit that and make a ton just because there's no real limitations on what you do and when you do it. So it's a bit of a game design mismatch when it comes to what you might be used to in other games to what a Township Tale is.
Yeah, it will likely, if it ever appears, it'll likely be in a meta sense rather than a game sense. But again, nothing in the works, nothing in the plans either. This is one of those always pops up questions. Fishing when?
I'm trying to line up everything that's supposed to get worked on, and where fishing would go.
So work on that, and then 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 we've got the other one, the one, and then that one, and then
fishing's a long way away, pretty much.
Who knows? We've got a fairly distinct plan for the majority of our workload. I'm not going to list all the things, but the two big ones would be the forest, obviously, and house building. Is probably the next big thing after the forest. I think it would be really nice to try and get fishing done soon after that, especially if these hunger changes really do open up avenues for new things. But again, I think I've said this in the past, but the reason fishing is a really niche sort of mechanic is because it will be a fair bit of work to just make it feel at a quality and level we want it to feel at. We have to implement fish swimming in water. Like it's a whole bunch of new
Yeah.
things. It's a lot of new things.
And when we do the fish in water thing, we have to kind of future-proof ourselves for water navigation, uh,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that I'm always going to bring up whenever water comes up.
And then we've done all these things. We've implemented actual fish swimming around. Maybe we've made it so you can spear them. We've made it so you can make fishing rods. You can toss the rod and reel the fish in, and the fish bites, and all this work. And at the end of the day, you have a fish. So it's all these mechanics added to the game when the end product is a bit of food. And especially in the current state of the game, you can just pick an apple and eat an apple, and it's like you might enjoy fishing, but what it's not actually adding anything to the overall big picture of the game. So that's the weird thing about fishing is it's a really cool mechanic and idea, but then it's
Yeah.
such a weird place in the game.
Yeah, it's a high effort kind of mechanic, so we need to make sure that there's the right places where it can add value to your experience in the game in terms of reward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And once we have more, like if we put ponds in the forest, for instance, or stuff like that, we could really do some cool things that you see in a lot of RPGs where you have to find different lakes or ponds or water sources are good for different types of fish, and that sort of thing would be really interesting, I think. So, I mean, obviously, fishing isn't coming before the forest, but just there's a lot of things which will improve the value of fishing when it comes, and I'd like to get a lot of that done before we even spend too much time thinking about fishing. But we all want fishing. We're all on the same page. Fishing would be great. Any chance for weather? You think this is a flippin' weather forecast? Get out of here. Okay, will there be an art contest at some point where the community can draw up cosmetics to be made? The winner and runner-ups could get codes for their outfits or pieces. Redeem gift code feature could get used more. Maybe? Like, I mean, I feel like with every single one of these questions about community contributions, I'm acutely aware of the fact that we need to look up and make sure that we're in a legally, okay situation. We'd also need to make sure there'd be enough people kind of keen to get involved, but I don't think it's out of the question. I think it's a cool idea. It's just a matter of when is the right time to do that sort of thing. But do you have any thoughts for me?
I mean, like, on the first whim, I'm always a little bit protective of like the style of things that get made. I know Sebastian and Tiana have to deal with my feedback, no matter how crudely sometimes, on things.
We do a disclaimer. Even if we pick you, the outfit might get changed 100%.
Yeah, I mean, like it might like some like I think what's safe to say is that if we were to do it, yeah, we might take the elements and the heart of the outfit you design and then turn it into something that we think has a bit more like global appeal and fits with the game's art style and the general character the general characters that are represented by the cosmetics system. But yeah, but I'm all for community events though.
Alright, back to the previous question. Any chance for weather? Clouds, maybe a thunderstorm if you want to avoid particles for rain. We do plan to have weather.
Yeah, there's a lot to do with weather. Too much to get into, but it's just a matter of making sure that, like, that we're at a stage where we can, like, because it needs to impact so many things. We want to have more of everything that's supposed to be in the game before we really touch weather. I think
I
this
want
is
house
probably the
building,
smarter way to do it.
house building in the game before we do weather, because that's probably going to be one of the big things that's affected by it. Um,
Yeah.
Mainly because you obviously don't want rain in your house. So
Yeah.
we'll need to design systems that make sure we can know what's under cover and or not, and that will probably have a lot more education behind the decision
Yeah.
when we know exactly how the house building systems are going to work.
Okay, we've got about 10 minutes, Joel. So let's
We've got so many.
and a lot of questions. So let's try to get through
crap.
them.
Okay, let's speed run these.
Yeah.
Any plan on a new skill tree? No plan.
Yeah. No plans.
Right
Cooking and carpentry need more precise, need more stuff before we can really make a good skill tree out of it.
Archery, for archery and ability to arrow recall would be amazing. I think those sorts of magical skills are going to be late game, end game if we have them. But
Yeah.
nothing like that is coming anytime soon. But absolutely, I agree, it would be amazing. Any plans to make things for lighting up the town? Currently, adding coal or wood to lighting burn way too quick. I do agree with this. I was talking to Sol about this the other day. Personally, I don't want to throw Boramy under the bus here when he goes, no, we're not doing that. But personally, I would love the idea for ceiling lanterns to burn really, really slowly, so that I could, even if it was like one coal every 24 hours, just so I could put a bunch of coal in there, and it's not going to burn away in 2 seconds. Whereas right now, no one wants to use the ceiling lanterns because.
Yeah. No, I think it makes sense. We it's localized, so it's not too game breaking to have it. So we might do it.
Yeah. If once house building is on, if you detach the ceiling lantern, you couldn't take it around with you lit up, or maybe it would burn at the normal lantern rate when it's off the ceiling or something. Anyway, how much sleep are you guys getting? Do you need slacks? Is there snacks? Is there a PO box we can send things to? We're all getting a good amount of sleep, I believe.
Yeah, it's just which time slot are you getting your sleep in is the problem, Joel.
I went to bed at 1 a.m. last night because I started reading NVIDIA's updates about stuff they were doing, and I woke up at 9:25 this morning. So that's a lot of sleep, really.
Yeah, I think we're all getting decent sleep. Yeah.
Do I look like I need snacks to you? Man, I got mandarins for days.
I'm super tired today, but yeah, Joel and I work pretty long hours. But yeah, thanks for your concern though. We don't need snacks. I've got way too many Tim Tams at this house that it's not good for me at all.
That's unhealthy. Eat something healthy like a mandarin.
Yeah.
I gotta
eat disguised sugar.
I got a bag of mandarins here.
All right. When would Magic start to become a project? Magic will start to become a project once we feel like we've filled up the amount of challenge that we want in the game. Probably after armor, I would say. And then when we're really starting to expand on things that require when we start to do lots of things that require class diversity when it comes to combat.
Will there be actual mountain adventuring? Hell yes, there will. Yes, there will. There's a reason the town is in the middle of a mountainy landscape.
Got this idea? Oh yeah. Yes.
Will you be able to?
The concept art.
Will
is
you be
legit.
able to? I'm not sure if Baramy's talking.
No, go ahead.
Are you saying that? Will you be able to track a hurt creature? Maybe. That would be awesome. Alchemy would be a great way to deal with a lot of odd items. I agree.
Can you resolve some of the ones we've answered, because I can't sort through them. Yeah, there's a whole Altacast on alchemy if you want to hear more about it, and I think we kind of address some of that. So feel free to have a look. Yeah.
Bigger beards and mustaches.
Oh yeah, I know exactly who asked that question. We're focusing a little bit more on some feminine hairstyles and stuff like that, just because we feel like they're lacking a bit. But maybe soon. Yeah, we'll see.
Here's a good one. What 3 games inspired us to make a Township Tale?
Terraria, Stardew Valley, and Zelda. What about you, Joel?
Well, yeah, we Boramy and I played Stardew together. Not together, but like at the same time.
Yeah. I played a lot recently as well, like earlier this year.
I haven't played any Zelda at all, but I've watched a fair few videos on it. If that counts. But we've both played Terraria in the past.
Yeah.
Originally, there was a little bit more of a Minecrafty vibe, but I feel like heaps of game developers, and you'll notice this if you look up indie developers working on survival games. Every game developer like relates their game to Minecraft because they're like, oh well, you're gonna collect wood and then you're gonna craft weapons. But when we really started plotting out the design, it's like it's nothing like Minecraft at all. Like it's much more into Terraria.
Yeah, in terms of the content scale and item diversity and adventure aspect. Yeah.
Will we ever get houses of our own in Township? Yes. Will mounts be like World of Warcraft where you just use them for XY purpose, or will they be real living creatures that you can take care of? The latter.
Yeah.
And you want to pick one more question, Boramy?
Will there ever be different townie races added? Nope, sorry. We're not gonna have like townie races like that, no. Any plans on the Mortar and Pestle system to grind up things? Yes, it's probably gonna have to do with alchemy, Mortar and Pestle, and a bunch of different chemical equipment. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna end on just like, are we gonna have this picture? Nope. End of Altacast. Anyway, yeah, there we go. There's a lot of questions. If we didn't answer your questions,
I feel like some have popped up whilst we were doing this almost. People are timing their question asking with when they think we're doing the Altacast.
If you didn't have your question answered, it's not because we didn't skip any questions. As in, like, we didn't outright go, no, we're not answering that. It's literally a time thing. So if we didn't answer your question, feel free to click on the description, pop your question back into the next round of the Altacast, and hopefully we'll answer it. If you get in quick, hopefully you'll get those early upvotes and bring it to the top of the list.
Yeah, sorry if we didn't answer your question. Like, there's some really good ones in here, but we're running out of time.
Yeah.
No. Okay, just
good questions for sure.
Yeah. Is there a way we can save some of these so that we can answer them at a time or something?
We could just add them to the next Altacast, to the next Q&A ourselves.
Okay, yeah, I guess we could do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Make sure you like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Hit that subscribe button because then you'll know when these Altacasts come out.
Man, this one went by in a blast. Maybe we'll have to I don't know. Yeah, if this amount of question keeps up and they're of this quality, we might find a way to answer them a bit more because there are some topics here that I would like to talk about. So, yeah, thanks again a lot.
If you I'll be selecting one subscriber every week to give a high five. This week it's me. We'll see who it is next week. Make sure you subscribe.
How are you not subscribed to the Township? Okay, whatever. Bye bye. See ya. See you next time.